Hello, I'm Kadiatu Kanneh-Mason and I've written the book House of Music, Raising the Kanneh-Masons, and this is the story of how we brought up our 7 children to become classically trained musicians and what that meant for our family. And I think for us, encouraging our children to be whatever they wanted to be and to dream themselves into a place that wasn't obviously theirs was a question of battling against racial stereotypes, was a question of encouraging them to love each other and to aspire to be whatever they wanted. It's also a book about parents telling their children that to be creative and to be confident is also about hard work. It's about generosity. And I think profoundly this is a book about love. Now, the books I want to talk about today are books I think that fed into the ideas that I had when I wrote House of Music. They are books that talk about narrative, they talk about love, they talk about overcoming racism, they talk about the importance of history. The first book I wanted to talk about is Ngugi wa Thiong'o's Petals of Blood. And this is a book that I read when I was a student, when I was younger. And I love this book because it talks about the history of pre-independence Kenya, about the Mau Mau rebellion and the uprisings of the Kenya Land Freedom Party and what that means in post-colonial Kenya and whether those dreams of independence have come true and what is needed to make them come true. It talks about the lives of 3 men and a woman and how the stories of their lives, their histories, their narratives become intertwined, and it's about that idea of the community and how important that is for the future. It was published in 1977 and translated from English into Ngugi's native language, Gikuyu. Fantastic read. The next book I wanted to talk about is Toni Morrison's Beloved. This was written 10 years later in 1987, and it was a book that just affected me so much. I'd read all her other books before this one, Song of Solomon, Bluest Eye, Tar Baby, and I thought they were incredible books. And then I came to this one, which I think in its magical realism, in the way that it talks about the history of slavery, how important that is to the imaginary of a whole community, and makes everything, memory, history, the trauma of the past, and makes it something which is bodily in the present and tangible and living in every room of the house. I thought this was just incredibly powerful, and it's a book that's always lived with me. Another book which I'd massively recommend is a book that was written another 10 years after that one, in 1997. I gave it to my husband Stuart for our 2nd anniversary, and I love this book because it comes from within the world of a child, of children. It talks about the vulnerability of children, the love of children, their incredible potential, and how that world comes against the world of adults, which is careless, violent, has structures of power which are incredibly destructive for these children. And I think for me, this book has 2 love stories, both of which are incredibly beautiful. It talks about the caste system in India and how love itself is crushed like a butterfly in the face of other structures of power. Beautiful book. And I think all these 3 books really affected me when I was writing House of Music, because you have the world of children, you have the narrative of history, of racism, of colonialism, you have the idea of the house itself being full of the love and the history of a family and of a community. And I think all of this is something that's informed me deeply. So thank you very much.